So this is Sheikh Shafayat. I was an individual study, not an intern, in a data science lab this summer. So this is my experience I'm describing from my point of view. So what I have done, so first of all, I happened to switch project during the summer. So my experience is kind of really divided. So first of all, when I enrolled, I was in the CRS project. So it was some sort of like from using the NLP description to predict the CRS code of the import-export data set, the import-export description. So then I choose to join the ARC team because ARC team is doing very cool stuff. So this was the CRS ID and everything. We were supposed to predict this CRS ID from this long description and the short description. And right now I'm doing ARC project. Subin and Prin has already given a good introduction of what ARC project is and what everything is about. So I will not go into that detail. So what I learned so far. So first of all, I learned that the learning curve is very, very steep. So I have to manage a lot of new concepts to learn. First of all, reinforcement learning, which I'm learning from the lecture videos that Sondong, Prin, and Subin are watching together. And I have been studying a lot on human abstract reasoning, especially from papers and mostly neuroscience papers or papers that get are very often cited in the AI literature. So most of my time I've been right now spending on reading about human abstract reasoning and neuroscience. And at the same time, I had one idea regarding NLP approach to this problem. So I had done some study on NLP approach. And again, I'm very, very far from knowing everything at all. And since it's been only 1 month, I'm in this project. So my achievement is pretty low so far. However, Prin and Sundong are helping me a lot. So I want to talk about this paper I presented 2 weeks ago, and I feel like this one is one of the very fundamental ways we can approach this problem. So this paper is titled Abstract Reasoning via Logic-Guided Generation. It's a KAIST paper. So basically, there's one data set called Raven's Progressive Matrix. It's an generated data set, but it's almost like an IQ test. However, it's kind of different from the way ARC task is, because in this task, you only select one of the answers. You don't need to generate the answer, like in the case of ARC. In ARC, you have to generate the answer. So the difference here is that the approach they are taking is that in this picture, for every line in the row, they are making it as a propositional logic and try to adjust the propositional logic using optimization theory. So they're using some sort of max set optimization to propose the solution of this problem. So it was a very, very interesting and very fascinating, also mathematically very complicated approach to solve this particular Raven's dataset. However, we are also considering to try this approach on our ARC problem. So I'm going to be very briefly talk about what's next in our list. So it's time to get to work and build the models. So we spent last week discussing our next steps, and we're narrowing down our research questions. So right now, the potential research questions are, maybe we can try knowledge graph-based models. Prin has already talked about it a bit, and object parsing and working on core knowledge domains. So to me, I personally believe that working on core knowledge domain is very, very important, because a few days ago, I saw a paper from Santa Fe Institute, and they were talking about that ARC problem should not and must not be trained on the ARC data itself, but on other domains, something other than the ARC dataset, because ARC dataset is kind of too small. So we have to train it on something else and then apply it to ARC. So that something else is, they said, core knowledge domain, and however we have to figure out what that means. And we can, with another approach we are thinking of trying that Subin had proposed, is trying existing RL algorithm on our mini-arc dataset first and see what's the actual benchmark. And another idea that is lurking behind my mind for a long time, that's like using NLP approach. So we have been thinking about this mostly because of the way human brain and language interconnects together. So this is one of the potential approaches, but right now we are not thinking about it too much. So yeah, now we're gonna pick one of these and get started. So about object parsing, so Prin has told a lot of things. I just wanna mention a brief about this paper from Yusho Bingio. This got published like a few months ago. So what they did is that they made a very simplified version of ARC dataset for only objectness properties. So it's almost like our miniature dataset, but their dataset is very object centric, and they are trying to utilize some sort of like a new object centric compositional like imagination approach to do visual abstract reasoning. And this approach also kind of uses the dream coder method to do program synthesis. So this is one direction we can go for object parsing. And about object parsing, this paper is from the core. These codes are from core knowledge paper from Spelke. So as Prin has already said that he is considering the entropy as the basis for object parsing. At the same time, I also feel like that these properties should be considered one of the properties of objects. For example, objects move as connected and bounded wholes. Objects have a connect continuity, that means objects move on connected and unobstructed paths, and objects contact, that means objects do not interact at a distance. So all these facts have been discovered from anthropological studies from human primates and monkeys. So I feel like to emulate the human intelligence, it's kind of makes sense that we take the anthropological view and try to hard code objectness into computers the way humans and monkeys and other higher primates view object in the wild. So, and there's another approach that has already been talked about, graph learning and imitation learning. So I think this has been talked about before. So let me go to the next slide. And the NLP approach. So for NLP approach, I didn't put anything in this slide. So the approach was that to use this large data set and this language complete ARC data set and use the guideline provided in the large data set to generate the solution of the ARC problems using some large language model like GPT-3 or some sort of DALL-E model. However, it seems like right now it's kind of a hard problem to do. So thanks, everyone.